Shalom. Shalom and welcome. Welcome to White Roads family. If you are an individual who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, the Almighty Creator Yahuah, I consider you my brother, my sister, my family. In the plan of the Almighty Father Yahuah, he manifests his word in the flesh in the person of Yahusha, born of virgin birth, sacrificed, resurrected. Many may struggle to understand how indeed Yahusha and Yahuah are one, or they have forged a narrative suggesting that you can take Yahusha after his sacrifice and resurrection and set him to the side and just speak to Yah separate from Yahusha. It is a mystery where terms and words have many baffled. But to those who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, we will discern that in his plan that we cannot come to him except by Yahusha. We cannot come to him except we acknowledge his plan, his method in which we are restored into fellowship and life with him. His plan, his ways in which the dominion that he's given us from the days of old is restored to us, and we are led by him, our sovereign, in the person of Yahusha. If you seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, in due season, these words will become clear. This is the 65th installment of White Roads family. As far as the series of White Roads family, there are other playlists and series within the umbrella of White Roads family that are numbered differently. In this segment, I want to bring your attention to the words believe, see, hear, and trust. Believe, see, hear, act, and trust. Believe, see, hear, act, and trust. My brothers and sisters, and I'm speaking in reference to you, to me, to the one in the mirror, first and foremost. If any pastor, teacher, moray, leader of any type is teaching you to depend on them, on him, or on her, they are teaching erroneously, and it could lead to you going astray. True teachings of the Almighty Father that are made alive and quickened by his Spirit, working through us, in us, one towards another, and through his chosen leaders and preachers and teachers. True living chosen ones that are obedient will impart on you information that will strengthen you in the event that they are dead, disabled, or in the event that they would stumble and fall and go astray. Yes, a leader can go astray as well. But those that are obedient should be providing you with the instructions that strengthen you and gives you the expectation and confidence that in spite of all that is growing and intensifying around you, you know unequivocally that you are a child of the Almighty Father Yahuah. You know and understand fully what obeying the 10 Commandments represent, obeying his laws and statutes, both written and living. You see, my brothers and sisters, many people would have you think that the Torah is just the first 5 books written by Mashyach or Moses. Or some would say Moshe. The Torah means instructions. Laws and instructions can be considered the same. Case in point, let's get to the seed of the word. What are instructions? Someone directing you to function in a certain way, and if they're directing you to, if they're instructing you to, and you do not, it comes with consequences. What are laws? Laws are telling you to live and govern yourselves by certain constraints, do things in certain ways. To break that law, to break those certain ways, come with consequences. You see, the seed of the matter is the Almighty Father doesn't joke and play with us. Life is a serious thing. He gives us joy, but he's not ordering us to play jokes. He gives us comfort. He's not pushing us to seek the feel-goods in life. We will understand, my brothers and sisters, even more so in the coming days, how we are indeed in a spiritual battle. A battle that has an end as we grow towards our redemption and that final judgment day. As we move beyond judgment day and be with Yahusha Mashyach forever. My brothers and sisters, you hear me speak often of the feast times or the set apart times, the 7 major. And with each one, they have their literal defining moments and periods in time. But they have an everlasting purpose. And each feast, from Passover to unleavened bread, to first fruits, to harvest, to trumpets, to atonement, to tabernacle. Each have a purpose that can be recognized and implemented in our day-to-day walk. Each of them present a purpose that could be used as a tool for vetting ourselves and one another as we move about in this journey, as end times ramp up, as famine, disease, and pestilence ramp up, as living conditions are challenged. Each of these can present a purpose for vetting and strengthening our ability to unite. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al. I want to get into these words: believe, see, hear, act, and trust. For each of these, I want to strengthen your understanding even more so. But before I get into the details of such, let me read the following. Warning and disclaimer. The information contained in White Rose family represent instructions and warning to individuals who believe they are drawn by the Almighty Creator Yahuah to Yahusha Mashyach. I'm referencing John 6:44. The content presented centers around end-time realities. Please be advised this site is not intended for children under 16 years of age due to its content. And that's to be compliant with the video platforms that I'm using, my brothers and sisters. By continuing forward, you agree to hold Symmanayah harmless of any influence and or actions that arise as a result of watching, listening, and reviewing the content presented. The views expressed do not reflect the owners, management, and or shareholders of this media platform. Please note, I am not affiliated with anyone or organization with similar names. With that said, my brothers and sisters, believe, see, hear, and act. Belief, my brothers and sisters, is the substance of things that are expected and the evidence of things that are not seen. When the Almighty Father draws us to Yahusha Mashyach, it brings about the expectation of his presence within us, working through us. It brings about the belief and the expectation that as children of the Almighty Father, we have received life everlasting, and proof of such will come. It begins with belief. Hebrews 11:6 even speaks of, without belief it's impossible to please him. But we can believe all day long, and we can see things happening each day. We can hear what different ones have to say about the matters that are before us. Whether it be COVID-19, the coronavirus, whether it be loss of job, possible eviction or foreclosure of home, whether it be what to do as we move about and food shortages begin to ramp up. Not just from a logistical perspective, but actual food shortages. As more diseases, there are other diseases other than the coronavirus, but add them all together and the coronavirus is the crown jewel. It is the straw or the disease to break the backs of the wicked, to weaken and physically humble and mentally humble the set-apart children of Yahuah, to yield and discover the inward man, the power and might of the Spirit within us. We must trust that the Almighty Father will indeed strengthen us and guide us. So you say all of this talk, let's see some scriptures. We will get into some scriptures. Now is a good time. Here, my brothers and sisters, is a passage I speak of often. And just as a warning sign, you see often, just as a siren or a sounding alarm will echo over and over until it's no longer needed, so shall I repeat things to reinforce, to echo the alarms and the warning and the needs, to know that our beginnings start with being drawn by the Almighty Yahuah to Yahusha. John 6:44 says, no one is able to come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I shall raise him up in the last day. Some may think that he's speaking of the only day is judgment day before the Father. But I say to you, many of us don't realize our last day that will be the determining factor once we go before the judgment seat of the Almighty Father. Some of our last days will be today, or was yesterday, or last week. The last day for you. Once we face physical death, our spirits return to the possession of Yahuah, to the place where he would have us rest, and the bodies return to the earth. And who is this Yahusha? He is the one that represents Yahuwah's word manifest in the flesh. He is the one quoted in John 6:44, letting us know that unless the Father draws us to him, we are not considered part of the set-apart family. John 14:6 says, Yahusha said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. This is critical, and it will come to be proven in such times as unfolding before us. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al. While there are people that will use many different names, I've said to you before and I will say again, look at those who present demonstrations of life everlasting. Look at those who present living water, the living word of the Almighty Father Yahuah in Yahusha's name. Look at those who present the bread of life, the life of Yahusha Mashyach within them and within one towards another. And look at those with the different names and ask yourself, who gives me more living water than others? Who provides a reflection of the bread of life than others? And look at what names they're using. And ask yourself, which one provides the most? It's as if you took glasses of water and they each had some truth in it. And they each had some sand or dirt, gravel, sticks, or rocks in it. Look at the one when you remove the most mistakes, the most error, the most falls and stumbles. Which one has the clearest of water? You see, when you remove the wickedness, the stumbles, the falls, or the demonstration of unlearnedness away, how much water do you have? The glass is not so full. But to those who have little to be charged with as a mistake, a stumble, or a fall, you will see more water coming from them. See what names they're using and draw closer to them as Yahusha would have you. If you don't understand what I'm saying, my brothers and sisters, pray on these matters. Ask me. My comments on this channel are regulated in an effort to guard what is set apart, in an effort to prevent those who leave comments on people's channel just for the purposes of being heard, just for the purposes of stirring up unfruitful conversations. If you have a question, if you have a comment, and you sincerely want to engage in discussing these matters, then leave your words and I will respond. Let me continue, O Yashar'al. Regarding growing steps in teachings, I want to bring your attention to Hebrews 5th chapter, verse 10 through 14. It reads, having been designated by the Almighty One a high priest according to the order of Melchizedek, concerning whom we have much to say and hard to explain, since you have become dull of hearing. For indeed, although this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the first elements of the words of the Almighty One, and you have become such as need milk and not solid food. For everyone partaking of milk is inexperienced in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But solid food is for the mature, whose senses have been trained by practicing to discern both good and evil. I need to correct that, my brothers and sisters, for I'm missing part of that passage, 5:14. And I want you to bear with me, for since I spotted it while still recording, because I don't do video editing. And so it is for this reason, my brothers and sisters, I want to take the time to correct that and put the whole thing there. You see, my brothers and sisters, mistakes are made. There are times mistakes are made, but there are times when mistakes can be corrected. And for such a time as this, I intend to make that correction. Yashar'al, I pray, sincerely I do. I pray that you are doing well. I pray that in the midst of all that is occurring, that you don't lose expectation of the Almighty Father. Doing exactly what he promised. Bear with me a second. Time is of the importance. It's of the essence. I know that. And I get that, my brothers and sisters. Okay, I believe I have that corrected. But notice it say, but solid food, I'm at the 14th verse in the 5th chapter of Hebrews. Solid food is for the mature, whose senses have been trained by practice to discern both good and evil. In growing, in learning, and studying, we ask questions when we don't fully understand. Sometimes, my brothers and sisters, a teacher, a moray, a prophet, a pastor, a shepherd, we may not want to disrupt their teachings or their message. Take a pen and a piece of paper. I know that sounds ancient. Or use your phone and type some notes to the side. And when given an opportunity, ask questions of your teacher, your moray, your pastor, your bishop. Become clear on all the teachings and all the words that you read. Seek counsel to understand. These are part of the growing steps, my brothers and sisters. These are part of the teachings. You see, Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, in order to believe, in order to see, in order to hear and act in a set apart way in order to trust what the Most High Father is saying to us. It requires us to grow in maturity, to come away from milk, to move into the meat of a matter. And if you take a moment and consider, O Yashar'al, that milk is something you can just drink. And I'm not necessarily saying milk has to be the product of a cow. Not at all. But it's something that you can drink. It's something that babes are given oftentimes before they get teeth. And teeth are something used to chew up meat, to break it down in the size and particles, and to prepare it for digestion, to add more strength to the body. Now you may wonder, where is he going with this? But I say to you, my brothers and sisters, in the teachings, in the growing, and having the ability to eat meat means we take the scriptures, we examine them, we recognize the literal, and we recognize the dynamics of how the written text, when it's made alive, and we read it over and over again, we get something else that connects and strengthens and fortifies. We get something else. We begin to experience what that everlasting water, living water from the word of the Most High, what it's about. We get to know why Yahusha is indeed the word of Yahuah and the bread of life, and the nourishment that our spiritual bodies get, our physical bodies recognize by yielding to the management of these vessels, this house that our inward man has been given by the breath of the Almighty Father, by his word. My brothers and sisters, when we believe, when we see, hear, act, and trust, we develop actions that bring us about with the abilities to get along with one another, to manage the conflicts, to fall into place as end times demands order and unity amongst a set apart nation. And my brothers and sisters, in all that I've said regarding obedience and sacrifice, spirit and in truth, these things must come to be. In 1 Samuel 15:22, yes, come and visit, O Yashar'al, 1 Samuel 15:22. It reads, Then Samuel said, Does Yahuah delight in ascending offering and slaughterings, as in obeying the voice of Yahuah? Look, to obey is better than a slaughtering. To heed is better than the fat of rams. Some versions will say obedience is better than sacrifice. O Yashar'al, we make the sacrifice of many things when we turn away from wicked and move into set apart. When we walk in obedience, it's greater. For obedience require more than just I gave a brother a dime, or I let this person have the last shirt on my back, or I gave them food, or I gave this or that, or I taught them this or that. My brothers and sisters, mores, teachers, pastors, bishops, elders, any influential person can teach and present the word of the Almighty Father. And the word can even come alive. But unless those teachings, unless the words as they come alive bring one into obedience, they have less strength and power. For the greatest thing is to obey the Almighty Father. And let us begin with, before we give a shirt, a dime, a clothing, a thing, an item, let us begin by presenting ourselves before the Almighty Father as a living offering. Consider Romans 12:1 and 2. I call upon you, yes, you. Add a little paraphrase there. I call upon you, therefore, brothers, and through the compassion of the Almighty One, to present your bodies a living offering. Some versions say a living sacrifice, set apart, well-pleasing to the Almighty One, your reasonable worship. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you prove what is that good and well-pleasing and perfect desire of the Almighty One. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al. We see those who are strengthened during this time of need. We see those who are stepping up and demonstrating discipline that we did not imagine, demonstrating the love we may not have imagined, doing some of the things we didn't understand. But we see also during this time of widespread disease, famine, and pestilence, we also see the cowards, the true colors, the true self. We are beginning to see the wolves in sheep clothing. We are beginning to see leaders that are not as anointed as we thought. Leaders who are not listening to the voice of the Almighty Father in Yahusha's name as they would have us to believe. The true colors of the unlearned, the undisciplined, the undiscerning, the cowards, and or all of the above are coming out, as well as the strength of the anointed in obedience are emerging. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, this color that I've chosen for this segment is akin to the feast time of the trumpets, where we make known, where we proclaim, where we shout, hallelujah, recognizing that there is a growth, that there is a harvest, and that many are awakening. This color, whether it be orange or yellow, I want you to think about purpose, make it known. But to make known, we would have had to grow into. As we grow into, let us make known the things that are contributing to our growth. As we move to meat, or as we eat more meat, as we understand the meat of the matter as it relates to the scriptures coming alive, let us make known as a trumpet. Let us echo out and shout. Let us make known to one another how the Spirit of Yahusha works in us, through us, one towards another. Let us make known the life in what is written. You see, leadership and structure, I cannot stress enough. Discipline is a requirement, O Yashar'al. I ask you, for such a time as this, are you satisfied with your spiritual leader? Are you satisfied with your spiritual teacher, your shepherd, your moray, your community head? Are they providing you with the instructions of what to prepare for and what to do? Or are they trying to tell you your strength is only in being in a community, or only in being in a camp, or only in being with their assembly? Or are they telling you that your strength is in only having physical food and fresh water? Are they telling you your strength is only in having guns or weapons? Make no mistake, my brothers and sisters, I'm not against guns or weapons. But if they magnifying the weapon, the gun, greater than the power and might of the Almighty Father, ask yourself this: can a person weakened of disease and on their deathbed hold firmly a gun and shoot it with accuracy? Can a blind person, physically blind and dull of hearing, shoot the gun straight? Can any individual come at you with any type of weapon if the brightness of the sun is glowing and blinding them, disorienting them? Not everyone with a weapon has courage and the knowledge of how to use it. Not everyone with a weapon can use a sturdy hand to use it correctly. The power, the ultimate power and might is from the Almighty Father. Can a person with a weapon defend themselves against the ground, opening up and swallowing them? Be careful of how we establish priorities in our attentions and our trust. Trust in the Almighty Father Yahuah, and he will guide us and direct us in what weapons, what actions, what discipline we must demonstrate as civil unrest and chaos begin to ramp up. Leadership and structure. If you have the right leader, they are teaching you how to govern yourself during these times of trouble, during these birth pains. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, believe, see, hear, act, and trust on the matters of set apartness as they come to you and nurture you, me, and the entire set apart nation of Yashar'al. Let me continue. My brothers and sisters, discerning the voice of the Almighty Yahuah, consider John 4:24 says, the Almighty One is spirit, and those who worship him need to worship in spirit and in truth. Without such, my brothers and sisters, it would be very difficult to worship him. It's all about worshiping he who is the Almighty One, Yahuah. In the name of Yahusha, let us continue. Ephesians 5:18-21 says, and do not be drunk with wine, in which is loose behavior, but filled with the Spirit, speaking to each other in psalms and songs of praise and spiritual songs, singing and striking the strings in your hearts to the Master, giving thanks always to the Almighty One, the Father, in the name of our Master Yahusha Mashyach, subjecting yourselves to each other in the fear of the Almighty One. My brothers and sisters, you've heard me say this before, and just as I say, a warning repeats until it's no longer needed. In these last days, we will learn how to recognize when the Spirit of Yahuah is working and speaking through us, one towards another. We would recognize the actions of his chosen leaders as he began to lead us in the direction we are to go. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, and in leading, in believing, in seeing, and hearing, and acting, and trust. All along the way, there will be examinations and proof. We will find ourselves understanding that the decision-making process requires serious and attentive ears and eyes, and requires us to act. Let me read 2 Corinthians 13:5. Say, examine yourselves whether you are in the belief. Prove yourselves, or do you not know yourselves that Yahusha Messiah is in you unless you are disapproved? The one in the mirror must be examined first, O Yashar'al. And we must use the tools, the studying, the teachings, the quickening, the stirring that comes from the Almighty Father to examine ourselves. Matthew 3:10-12 says, and the axe is already laid to the root of the trees. Every tree then which does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. I indeed immerse you in water unto repentance. This is John, or some say Yehonan or Yochanan. Say, I indeed immerse you in water unto repentance. But he who is coming after me is mightier than I, whose sandals I am not worthy to bear. He shall immerse you in set apart spirit, in the set apart spirit and fire. Are you not aware that it is written that Yahuah is a consuming fire? The power and might of Yahuah brings to naught and brings to end the things that are wicked, the things that are wrong. And in that process, it is he as a consuming fire removing and bringing to naught anything that would have us stumble. And though our flesh war against the spirit, the strength and power of our inward man, guided by him, the Almighty Father Yahuah in Yahusha's name will give us the strength to manage and to press forward as we find ourselves disciplined and refined for such a time as this. Matthew 3:12, his winnowing fork is in his hand, and he shall thoroughly cleanse his threshing floor and gather his wheat into the storehouse, but the chaff he shall burn with an unquenchable fire. O Yashar'al, there are examinations, and there is proof. Proof will come. For some, we will see evidence during our physical lifetime, and others we won't find the proof, the evidence, until we wake up Judgment Day. Consider and discern these words as well, O Yashar'al. Romans 10:13 through 15. Romans 10:13 through 15. For everyone who calls on the name of Yahuah shall be saved. How then shall they call on him whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without one proclaiming? And how shall they proclaim if they are not sent? See, there's a lot of people jumped out there to be a moray, a pastor, a bishop. Some have been pushed because of the groups that they lead, have pushed them into leadership. And instead of them denying that fact, or instead of them growing in humility to the truth, they became puffed up with pride and egos were swelled. My brothers and sisters, the teachings will come by the chosen leaders, by the obedient ones of the Almighty Father. There are teachers who have stumbled and fallen. There are some who have stumbled and fallen many years ago. But there are those who will be corrected and rise up renewed in the power and might of the Spirit of Yahuah. In Yahusha's name, they will come to be corrected. And there are those that will face sickness unto death, physical death. And there are those that will be left behind or purged from our midst. Keep in mind, let me continue Romans 10th chapter, the rest of the 15th verse. As it has been written, how pleasant are the feet of those who bring the good news of peace, who bring the good news of the good. O Yashar'al, consider the life in these words. That was Romans chapter 10, verse 13 to 15. Consider Isaiah 52:7. Isaiah 52:7. It says, how pleasant upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news, who proclaims peace, who brings good news, who proclaims deliverance, who says to Zion, your Almighty One reigns. Yashar'al, if ever there was a time for us to receive clearly what the Almighty Father is saying to us, that time is now, my brothers and sisters. That time is now. While we're in our homes, apartment, cars, however these words reach you, whether it be through the messages that I am compelled to present, or through another, or directly through his Spirit, we must be mindful, for there are thieves amongst us, just as there are set-apart teachers among us, set-apart morays, set-apart pastors, set-apart bishops, leaders, and group heads, set-apart family members, brothers and sisters, just as we have those who are growing in the refinement and discipline of set-apartness by the Spirit of Yahuah, in Yahusha's name. There are what I call Ark Thieves. A few recordings ago, I introduced the terms Ark Thieves. And I define Ark Thieves as those who take words of truth, those who take living words of the Almighty Father, but then they attach it to their own agenda. Then they try to make it look like it's all about them. Some will even lie and say the Almighty Father told them, and when they present something that they've stolen and use it to manipulate for their own gain, that's an ark thief. That's an ark thief. If they receive a message, a teachings, a word from a brother or a sister, from another, from the Almighty Father, and they acknowledge where they received it from, this fulfill what is written about exhorting one another, not exhorting and encouraging one another, that the Spirit of Yahushua work through you. He worked through me. He worked through us. This demonstrates what it is to subject ourselves one to another. Yes, the 5th chapter of Ephesians speaks literally of the husband and wife relationship. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, Yahusha's relationship with the assembly is as a husband and wife. And if we are to walk and be like the Almighty Father in Yahusha's name. If we are to walk in set apartness, then we should demonstrate actions of a husbandman towards his bride. The assembly, Yashar'al, set apart Yashar'al. Versus the obedient. The obedient one says, hey, I heard brother so-and-so, I heard sister so-and-so, I heard pastor More or so-and-so say these things, and in my prayer, and in my spirit, and in my studying, I bear witness. I thank him or her for yielding to the Spirit of the Most High. I thank them for being in my life or passing through, passing by. O Yashar'al, beware of the Ark Thieves. And you can discern and you can uncover the ones who just going around picking and raping and stealing from the vineyard, so to speak, snatching fruit for their own self-gain to look good for themselves in order to manipulate and use their congregants, their fellow brothers and sisters, their flock. Beware of the Ark Thieves. You can discover them by asking questions. Where did you get that? How did you get that? What does it mean to you? Ask as many questions as you can. And if they cannot answer to the point where your spirit is brought to peace and strengthened, if they cannot answer in such a way that pushes you closer to the Almighty Father, you may consider, are you being duped? Are you being used by someone that would want to lead you astray? Are you being a victim of an ark thief? Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, discern the difference. The time to believe, see, hear, examine what you see and hear, and act, and trust that the Almighty Father will bring you into maturity with each moving day, with each moment a breath is taken. My brothers and sisters, is an experience that we who are disciplined and trained by his words will grow to know even more so. It's an experience that will give us the eyes to see, the ears, the quickening ability to discern the difference between an ark thief and one who is obedient. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, come with me and consider these words. Discern the life in Joel 2:32. It reads, and it shall be that everyone who calls on the name of Yahuah shall be delivered. For on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there shall be an escape, as Yahuah has said, and among the survivors whom Yahuah calls. You see, my brothers and sisters, during these end times, as disease, as chaos, as wars, as famine and pestilence ramp up, there are those who will survive. There are those that will escape. Survivors whom Yahuah calls. What say you? Do you believe? Do you see Yahuah speaking through another, calling you, O Yashar'al? Can you hear the call of Yahuah through another or in spirit? Are there calls that we don't recognize as calls that will prove to make us survivors of what's to come? Let me go to Jeremiah 23rd chapter, verse 2 through 4. There will be a final exodus. There will be a gathering. There will be assignments that will place us in positions we never thought we would have been. Some of us will be martyrs for Yahusha's sake, and some of us will be survivors among the ranks of those gathered from the four corners of the earth. And some of us will just face physical death for such a time for varying reasons. But Jeremiah 23, 2 through 4 says, therefore thus saith Yahuah, the Almighty One of Yashar'al, against the shepherds who feed my people, you have scattered my flock and driven them away and have not tended them. See, I am punishing you for the evil of your deeds, declare Yahuah. Therefore I shall gather the remnant of my flock out of all the lands where I have driven them, and I shall bring them back to their fold, and they shall bear and increase. They shall bear and increase. And I shall raise up shepherds over them, and they shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be discouraged, nor shall there be lacking, declares Yahuah. Another one I seem to have not placed the fullness on there. Read the rest of that passage, Jeremiah 23:4. My brothers and sisters, for the sake of patience, I will correct that one as well. So I ask you, O Yashar'al, to bear with me as I make that correction. Patience. Patience, my brothers and sisters. I want you to know as I make this correction, my brothers and sisters, that I don't know of any other direction to turn. I don't know of any other direction to go. And when I pray each day and seek guidance, I find myself at times under the blood of the Almighty Father. I find myself recognizing the power of forgiveness. And it is for this reason I have the audacity, the courage to press forward and set apartness, to press forward and continuing to do the things that I do. I know it's not about me, my brothers and sisters. I know it's not about me. It is about worshiping and obeying He who is the Almighty One. What say you? What is your position on this matter when it comes to knowing what it is to believe? What it is to see and see clearly, O Yashar'al? What is your position? Do you think that you have all that it takes to endure the challenges ahead regarding the intensity of end-time prophecies being fulfilled? Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, just think the things we learn, the things we receive from the Almighty Father. It brings us closer to Him. I've made the correction, Jeremiah 23:4. And I shall raise up shepherds over them, and they shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be discouraged, nor shall there be lacking, declares Yahuah. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, there's much work ahead of us. Remember these words as well. Matthew 23:27 and 28 says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly indeed look well, but inside are filled with dead men's bones and all cleanliness. There are many camps, fellowships, and groups that are more concerned with looking like Hebrews, quote unquote, or wearing Hebrew garments than they are about walking in obedience and discerning the life in the scriptures and discerning the instructions from the Almighty Father. They are as whitewashed tombs. He goes on to say, so you too outwardly indeed appear righteous to men, but inside you are filled with hypocrisy and lawlessness. There's a warning. Yes, believe it or not, there are some brothers and sisters, they just unlearned or influenced by the flesh, stumbling and falling. Deep in their heart, they was drawn and identified the spirit of Yahuah in Yahusha's name. But somewhere along the line, they stumbled, they failed. This is why you see in Revelations, in the assemblies, the first 3 chapters of Revelation, this is why you see emphasis on things that must be done. And on two occasions, you see it written to remember where you have fallen. And you see, my brothers and sisters, there are those who may not remember where they stumbled or have fallen. And they will carry the errors to the grave, but we will see them resurrection day. You see, those whom the Almighty Father has drawn to Yahusha Mashyach, those whom he has placed in Yahusha's hand, in the name of Yahusha. No one can pluck us or take us out of his hands. It is by his words that we would face physical death. Remember, Deuteronomy 8:3, it talks about man doesn't live by bread alone, but every word. So it is by the word of the Almighty Father Yahuah that we face physical death, or that we continue to enjoy the favor of physical life, that we have another chance to manage these earthen vessels. Remember, O Yashar'al, John chapter 10, 27 through 30. John chapter 10, verse 27 through 30 says, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me, and I give them everlasting life, and they shall by no means ever perish, and no one shall snatch them out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one. Notice how he said, my Father has given them to me, and no one shall snatch them out of my hand. Yahusha saying this, quoted as saying this. And he only said, my Father has given to me, and he said, no one's able to snatch him out of my Father's hand. And so he's letting you know that I and my Father are one. We will grow to know what this means, O Yashar'al. We will awaken to the things that are necessary to strengthen us for what's ahead and what is coming, O Yashar'al. Pray and watch. My brothers and sisters, we believe, we see, hear, and will act. You see, out of discipline that is promised in Hebrews 12 chapter, Revelation 3:19, something I speak of often. It lets us know that it's more, it's beyond the maybe. He lets us know, O Yashar'al, that out of discipline, our belief, the things we believe are enlarged, the things we see are made clear, the things we hear, understanding comes. And the conditions around us and all that we receive from the Almighty Father will bring us to act. Are you ready, O Yashar'al? Are you awake? Are you listening? Are you prepared to demonstrate the power and strength to endure? Yashar'al, our brothers and sisters, prepare to witness major changes in movement. I say this over and over, I say it a lot. The time will come when he that is dull of hearing will remain dull of hearing. He that chooses to be blinded will remain blinded. He that is wicked will remain wicked. but for the children of Yashar'al, who will fulfill end-time prophecies that are ordered, that are foretold, that are promised by the Almighty Father. Major changes in movement is coming. Prepare to adjust and adapt. Our lifestyle changes, how we govern ourselves, even in some cases how we dress. O Yashar'al, there are plans with orders. There are plans with details and processes. There are things that must come to be. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, are you prepared to work? If not, you should be. I should be. Things are getting ready to become worse. There's no going back to yesterday, last year, or past years. We are pressing into a time that will prove that this is the generation that will await the physical return of Yahuah through Yahusha Mashyach, as Yahusha Mashyach. We will witness our sovereign, or some say king, return. There will be a final exodus. There will be a judgment day. Deliverance comes as a process, and final deliverance will be proven in the coming of days, O Yashar'al. There are plans by individuals that the Most High have quickened and stirred. Plans given to those who the Almighty Father have empowered. Soon and very soon, we will see the different plans join hand in hand as we merge, as 144,000 begin to rise, as the great multitude begin to emerge, as mentioned in Revelation 7 chapter. There are those who will be representative of the obedient children of the Almighty Father Yahuah. When you compare the great multitude, the 144,000 and great multitude, to the world population, it would be a remnant. This is how both great multitude and remnant are true in Scripture, O Yashar'al. As for White Rose family, my spirit is stirred to bring about a contribution as led by the Spirit of Yahusha, a contribution to build a set-apart team of leaders, vetted, proven to be chosen by the Spirit of Yahusha, to develop an information and resource center, both physical and virtual, to build a team of with diverse skill sets that are mentoring the young and the unlearned, to purchase land in Virginia for those who are set-apart children of Yashar'al in the Western Hemisphere, for I believe this will be the exit point as we find the final exodus taking shape, beginning to be fulfilled with such magnitude that the world will witness it. To identify support safe zones where many will stop intermittently as they begin to migrate towards the exit point in the Western Hemisphere, and those outside the Western Hemisphere, safe zones where they will migrate as they move towards the borders that is in close proximity to that set-apart mountain, Jabal al-Laws. That is our destination, O Yashar'al, whether it be us individually and collectively, or those who are among the ranks and we are chosen to be martyrs or face other ends that still contribute towards the lifting up of the body of Yashar'al. But there will be a final exodus. And in this plan, my brothers and sisters, there are words, there are instructions, there are directions to provide guidance and support for completing the journey, to provide guidance and support for the inner circle life, the life of set-apart children of Yahuah, gathered together in unity, as we find ourselves waiting on Yahusha Mashiach's return. And with all plans, O Yashar'al, the need to count the cost is before us. Count the cost. There's a cost, O Yashar'al. I am not too proud. I am not egotistical. At least I don't believe I am, but of course you are the judge. But I do ask for your help. Subscribe, O Yashar'al, if I'm saying something that pushes you closer to Yahuah in the name of Yahusha Mashiach. If I'm saying something that helps improve your worship and obedience, something that is good and set apart, subscribe and share with others. Support, contribute, invest, whether it be resources, supplies, skills, and or money. Sponsor. Yashar'al, help me to help us. Only if you believe you have been put in a position to do so. I set up Cash App under White Robes Family for financial support. My brothers and sisters, I know that the Almighty Father hardened hearts and softened hearts. If you want to support the things in which I've presented, email me at Symmanayah@YahusWatchman.com. Email me, my brothers and sisters. At Symmanayah@YahusWatchman.com or YahusWatchman.net. And remember, just as in the 25th chapter of Matthew, verse 14 to 30, the parable of the talents, it speaks of how we can use it or risk losing whatever favor and skills and assets that the Most High have given us or allowed us to receive, or given us the strength to work and endure and achieve. Are we using these things? Or will the time come and we'll look back and say, I once could have, I should have? You decide, O Yashar'al. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al. What we believe, what we see, what we hear, how we act in the matter of trust will demonstrate to the world our position regarding this journey, our position of whether we are a part of a set-apart awakening nation or not. What say you, O Yashar'al? What will you proclaim? What will you announce? The days of shouting hallelujah are before us. The days of shouting hallelujah will come to us. The days of recognizing redemption moment by moment, daily, is now. And there is the ultimate times that will make it clear that we have arrived in these last days before the physical return of Yahusha. On that note, I salute your patience, your tolerance, your desire to grow and set apartness. I pray your strength and endurance. I pray for your good health and or the ability to endure whatever you face, whatever we face, and still yet press into the belief with the expectations to see, to hear, and receive the acts of set apartness that will reflect through our lives and through others. Thank you, O Yashar'al. There is more to come as I believe I am led. On that note, I say to you, O awakening nation, hang in there, hold on, stir up the gift that is within you, and recognize the presence of the Almighty Father's Spirit in Yahusha's name, building us together in unity, prepared to witness all that is promised. In Yahusha's name, I pray for you, for me, for us. Shalom, my family. Shalom, my brothers and my sisters.